Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. My name is Kassandra and I'm going to guide you through this beginner-friendly full body flow. So this will be roughly 30 minutes or so, and it's a good mix of strength building, flexibility, as well as a little bit of balance. It's a great introduction to yoga if this is something that you're new at, or if you're just looking for something that's going to be a little bit easier, not quite as strenuous, and just a simpler flow that you can follow along with. We're not going to be rushing through any of the poses, and there are also no props required. We're going to begin this class lying down on our backs. So you can make your way there, and you can pull your right knee in towards your chest and keep your left leg extended out on the mat. So starting with this reclined knee to chest as a way to open up through our thighs, through the hip flexors. Think of flexing your left foot and really stretching and pushing down in your left heel, while at the same time using a little bit of arm strength to pull that right thigh closer in towards you. And depending on the range of motion that you have, you might be more comfortable holding onto the back of your thigh. And if this really feels like it's too much, you can also keep that left knee bent. Think of rolling your shoulders down and away from your ears so your upper body is grounded. You're not curling yourself up and off the floor. And we'll add a few ankle rolls with our right foot. So just getting some mobility through the ankle joint. You can flex and point through your toes. Reverse the direction of your circles. And breathing in and out through your nose. And you can quiet that right foot. We're going to carry our right knee over and across the body for a twist. So my right knee is going to go all the way over towards the left side of my mat. And I'm using my left hand to kind of guide it along there. At the same time, I'm going to try to push my right shoulder blade into the floor as I reach my right arm out. So what we're trying to do with these twists is we're trying to stack our right hip over the left without twisting our upper body. So I'm trying to keep my shoulders and my shoulder blades in contact with the floor. So just a nice spinal rotation. It's as if you're trying to move your right shoulder and your right hip in opposite directions. Take another big breath here. And you can come all the way back to where you started from. This time, go ahead and bend your left knee so you can have your left foot firmly planted on the floor, and straighten your right leg to any amount that is comfortable to you. And we're going to alternate with flexing and pointing through our right toes. You'll notice this will change the intensity of the sensation through your hamstrings. And you can bring your hands up the leg wherever feels good. A little bit of a bend in that right knee is totally fine. Give it one last big stretch here. And let's release. Go ahead and extend your right leg to the mat. Flex into that right foot. Push into your right heel. And you can draw that left thigh and knee in towards you. So we'll do those same 3 poses on the second side. Adding in some ankle rolls with our left foot. And you could reverse the direction of those circles. Try to relax your neck. And quieting that left foot will carry over into our supine twist. So your left knee is going to cross over the body, trying to stack your left hip on top of your right. I'm using my right hand to help guide this along. And then I'm also going to reach my left arm out to try to press my left shoulder blade down into the mat so that my collarbones, my chest is facing up and my hips are facing to the side. And these twists do compress into our belly, but see if you can still breathe deeply in and out through your nose, feeling that breath travel all the way down. Coming back through to center, bend into your right knee, bring the sole of your foot flat to the floor, and we'll find our hamstring stretch here. So interlacing your hands somewhere behind the back of that left leg and just alternate flexing and pointing through that left foot. And it's totally normal if you feel like one side is a little stiffer and tighter than the other. If you need to bend and straighten that leg, you can absolutely do that. Give one last little pull. And then both feet will come flat to the floor, hip width distance apart, and keep your heels pretty close into your seat. As you walk your feet back, don't widen them. Keep them really hip width distance apart. Arms by your sides, palms are facing up. Shrug your shoulders away from your ears, so a little opening through your chest. Push down into your feet, squeeze through your seat, and lift your hips up nice and high, coming into our bridge pose. Think of pushing down into your big toes and hugging through the inner thighs as if you were squeezing and holding something there. Try to find a little bit more lift, really squeezing and engaging through your glutes, pushing down into your shoulders, into your arms. Working on that strength. And lower down inch by inch. And you can roll over to one side. Let's come into tabletop pose, onto hands and knees. Go ahead and place your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, and really spread your fingertips wide so you can push into your fingertips and knuckles. We'll come into cat and cow from here. So this is all about your spine. You're going to inhale to drop the belly, find a little back bend as you lift tailbone up, lift the gaze up, roll the shoulders back, and then exhale, reverse this motion just like a cat, rounding through your spine, drop your head. And just keep going in and out of those two poses. So inhale and exhale. Twice more here. Coming back through to neutral. So your spine is parallel to the mat. We're going to reach our right arm all the way up to the sky. So big open twist. And then exhale, you're going to thread your arm underneath you, lowering shoulder and ear down to the floor. Personally, I find this more comfortable by straightening my left arm up overhead. And think of almost leaning over into your right hip and right knee. Pushing down both arms into the ground. We're trying to get a stretch between our shoulder blades. This is also a deep spinal rotation. Let's slide our left hand back where it was, beside your face, push down into the floor, come all the way back up and re-extend your right arm up. See if you have a little bit more range of motion the second time around. And bring that right palm down. Right away to the other side, left arm rises. And exhale to twist. So the further you get your left arm underneath you, the more intensely you'll feel this. And if you did it on the first side, you can also straighten your right arm and reach it up overhead. Leaning a little more into your left hip on this side. You can slide that right hand back to where it was. Use it to push into the floor to lift yourself up and re-extend the left arm up overhead. And coming back into your neutral tabletop pose. Really tone and engage through your belly here. So your spine, lower back is flat. And we're just going to flex the right foot and straighten that right leg back behind you. Roll that right hip down. So it's not about lifting the leg up super high. Mainly it's about keeping our hips at the same height and trying to straighten at the back of the knee. This will strengthen your abdominals as well. Pull the lower belly in and release. Same thing to the other side. Flex your left foot and straighten that left leg back. So again, we're not opening the hip here. We're trying to close it. So both hip bones are facing down to the mat. Try not to drop and curve through your lower back. Push your fingertips firmly into the mat. And bring that left knee back down. We'll find cat and cow again, but this time come down onto your forearm. So this is going to work the poses a little differently. So from here, same thing. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze, tailbone up. And exhale, round and contract. And just notice where you feel those poses now that we're down on our elbows instead of on our palms. Just take one more here. Coming back to neutral, a little bit of strength building. You're gonna walk your feet back behind you, come into a little forearm plank. You can absolutely have your knees down for this one. We're just holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and drop your hips to the mat, lift up through your chest, find a back bend in this sphinx pose. So head of the arm bones, the shoulders are rolling back, shoulders are pushing down. Press into the tops of your feet, stretch at the back of your knees. And let's release. We're gonna find our first downward facing dog. So with your hands a little bit close towards your shoulders, shoulder width distance apart, you're gonna push strongly back as you tuck your toes under. Your feet are hip width distance apart and you're lifting your hips up and back. So really don't worry about whether your knees are super straight or whether your heels are touching the mat. Right now, mine are not. It really does not matter. Instead, we're focusing on straightening our arms and also pressing and reaching our chest towards our thighs and just getting a nice sensation of a stretch through the back of our legs, lifting your seat up as high as it will go. Let's extend our right leg up towards the sky and we're gonna step that right foot forward in between our hands to the top of the mat. If you need to, you can grab a hold of your ankle and just kind of place it there. It can take time and practice to be able to step that foot all the way in. And we're gonna use our hands to push ourselves up. And I want you to align your shoulders over your hips, over that back knee. Lengthen tailbone down, draw the lower belly in. We're gonna reach our left arm up and then find a little side bend. So left arm extends up and over. And the right arm is just there to help you maintain your balance. Coming all the way back through to center, you can bring your fingertips to frame that front foot. We'll find our half splits. So you're going to straighten that right leg. You might need to wiggle your foot a little bit further forward if this feels like too narrow of a stance. And with a flat back, you're pushing down into your heel and almost dragging that heel back towards you. Let's go ahead and bend into our front knee once more. This time you're gonna tuck the back toes under, lift your back knee off the mat, and steady yourself to come all the way up into a high lunge. This time we're gonna keep both hands interlaced on our thigh, and you can bend generously into that back knee. I want you to think of doing that cow or that cat pose that we were doing on hands and knees at the beginning of the class as you round and contract. And with my hands, it's almost like I'm pushing my thigh away from me to deepen the stretch through my left hip flexors. And straighten the back knee, reach your arms up, find the traditional version of your high lunge. Hands come together at the front of the heart and just step to the top of the mat into your mountain pose. Working a little bit on balance from here, we're gonna come into Vrikshasana, our tree pose. You're gonna stand on your right leg and bring your left foot somewhere alongside the inside of that right leg. Try not to apply direct pressure to your knee, especially if you know that you have some knee sensitivities. Think of pressing your left knee open and pushing your right leg into the foot. This is what's really going to help you with balance. So we don't want to be leaning and sinking into our right hip. We're really trying to keep this active. And notice if you're relying on your toes digging into the mat to balance you. And if you feel ready, you can also extend your arms up overhead, growing the branches of your tree. Keeping your gaze steady, wobbling is totally normal. And let's bring our hands back down, carefully release and shake it out. Widen your feet towards the edges of the mat. Bend your knees quite a bit and just fold on forward. In this ragdoll fold, I'm kind of letting my belly rest kind of on my thighs or in between my thighs. And you can hold onto your elbows and just let yourself sway a little bit side to side as we decompress here. You might want to take some cleansing breaths, which means we inhale through the nose and exhale out the mouth. Let's do 2 more like that. 1 more. Release your palms to the floor. Let's step back, downward facing dog, and we'll do that same sequence on the other side. So stretch out long in this downward dog. Notice if it feels a little different. And this time our left leg stretches all the way up to the sky before we step it forward in between our palms to the top of the mat. Your feet are about hip width distance apart. Drop your back knee down so that you're coming into your low lunge. And I'm keeping my shoulders over my knees, or shoulders over my hips and my hips over my right knee. And we're gonna first come into a side bend. So your right arm will straighten up and then lean it over slightly towards the left. Big breath in here. And use core strength to lift you all the way up. Frame the front foot coming up onto your fingertips, and you can straighten that left leg. You might need to wiggle the foot forward a little bit. Try to maintain a flat back so you're really tall and lifted. If you need to, you might be up closer to here in order to maintain that flat back. We're really just hinging and tipping from the hips, from the pelvis, flexing into that front foot. And we'll be coming from here into our high lunge. So keep your feet hip width distance apart, bend into your front knee, tuck the back toes under so you can lift your right knee off the mat, and you can bring your hands to your thighs to help yourself up a little bit with balance here. And we're gonna interlace our hands, place them onto that upper left thigh, and bend into your right knee. This will really change the sensation of the lunge. As you bend into that left knee, think of rounding through your upper body and bringing your chin to your chest. And I'm almost thinking of pressing into my front thigh and almost like tractioning it forward. Lifting your upper body up, straighten the back leg, reach your arms up. Just take a moment in the traditional variation of our high lunge. Hands at the heart and step to the top of the mat. We will set ourselves up for tree pose, Vrikshasana on the second side. So you'll be leaning and standing on your left leg this time. Careful not to let your left hip pop out. Really stay lifted and tall, even as you bring that right foot somewhere alongside the inside of that left leg. And this is an external hip rotation, which means I'm pressing my right knee open, trying not to dig the toes into the mat, pulling the lower belly in. And when you feel steady, you might extend your arms up. Wobbling as normal. And the palms come back down. And release that right foot, shake out the legs, and we'll come back into ragdoll so you can widen your feet wider than your hips towards the edges of the mat. Bend into your knees and fold on down, grabbing a hold of your elbows and just swaying a little side to side. And let's find our last downward facing dog. So hands come down to the mat, step your feet back, really lengthen out, take up some space. You might notice that your heels maybe are a little bit closer towards the mat, or maybe your knees are a little bit straighter than they were the first time you came into downward dog. And let's find tabletop pose on hands and knees. So realign your palms under your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. From here, we're going to straighten our left leg back, roll to the inner edge of your left foot. So it's really planted on the floor, and you're gonna reach your left arm up to the sky. So this is a modification, a version of our side plank pose. Think of squeezing and lifting here. And if you'd like to intensify a little bit, you're going to point your left toes and see if you can squeeze and lift that leg up. So trying to get the ankle at the same height as your hips. Really working at squeezing into that glute. And set the toes back down, back through tabletop. So coming back to neutral. And we'll go and do that on the second side. So you're going to straighten your right leg. Roll to the inside edge of that right foot so you can firmly plant it on the mat. This will really help with stability in the pose. Right arm extends up. And you can look up if you want towards your right thumb. If that feels too hard for balance, just keep your gaze neutral, or you can even look down at your left hand. And if you did it on the first side, once more, we're now going to point through our right toes and see if you can squeeze and lift that right leg up. Really trying to straighten at the back of the knee. And you can bring those toes down. Right hand comes down. Let's find a wide-legged child's pose. Big toes together. Knees go as wide as is comfortable to you. As you press your hips back towards your heels and then walk your hands out and just relax your head down to the floor. If you need to here, if you're up a little bit higher, you can make some fists and just rest your forehead, or you can stay up a little bit more onto your forearms.
And if your hips are hovering off of your heel, know that that's totally normal. And just see if you can relax them a little bit, trying to melt away the tension through the hips and the lower back. And if for any reason this feels painful in your hips or your lower back, bring your knees closer in towards one another. Two more deep belly breaths here. And let's walk our hands in. We're going to lower all the way down onto our backs, however you'd like to get there. And we'll keep our knees bent, feet flat on the floor. We're just going to stretch into our hips a little bit more, coming into reclined pigeon pose. So you're going to cross your right ankle over the top of your left knee, making this figure 4 shape. And we're intending that right knee and thigh to move away from our chest. So a big external hip rotation. This is similar to what we were doing in tree pose, but we're just crossing the ankle on top. Maybe you stay here, or maybe you reach through with your arms and try to pull that left thigh in towards your belly. Try not to curl up as you do this. Keep your upper body relaxed and grounded as much as possible. And you can slow down your breathing, taking longer inhales, longer exhales. And give your leg one last little squeeze. And you can release, sit down. It might feel good to just straighten out that right leg before we do the same thing to the other side. So this time you'll be crossing your left ankle over the top of your right knee, again with that figure 4 shape. I'm externally rotating through my left hip, moving it away from me, and then reaching through with my arms, either to the back of the thigh or the front of the shin, pulling in here. Only using a little bit of arm strength, trying to still make the stretch fairly passive so you can relax into it. And give that leg one last squeeze in. And we'll release. So we'll be coming into Shavasana, which is how every yoga class for the most part ends. This is like a final relaxation, like digesting after a big meal. So traditionally this is done with both legs being straight and the arms opening up with palms facing up. Sometimes having the legs straight can be a little bit difficult on people's lower backs. If you feel strain from doing this, just keep your feet wide with your knees bent and let your knees fall in towards one another. And this should help to provide some relief. So choosing the variation of the pose that feels the best to you. Relaxing from head to toe. And we'll be here for a few minutes in silence. This is an opportunity to integrate and process the work that you've done. So really give yourself this time to pause and just tune in. And we'll slowly wake ourselves back up. Maybe move, wiggling fingers and your toes, breathing a little deeper. You can extend your arms up overhead, stretching out your fingers away from your toes, as if you're just waking up in the morning. And rolling to one side, use arm strength to push yourself up to take a seat. And just sitting any way that is comfortable for you here. And you can close your eyes once you're there. Sitting up tall. And join your hands together at the heart. This is called Anjali Mudra. And we'll close by chanting Om together one time. Inhale to chant, breathe in. Thank you so much, everyone, for doing this full body beginner flow with me. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. Before you go, leave me a comment. Just let me know how this class felt for you. I have a lot of other beginner yoga practices here on my channel, so I'll leave a link to those if you wanted to see the rest of them of varying lengths. Please subscribe, and hopefully we'll practice again together very soon.